President Trump demands an in-flight adjustment to the flight path, but the pilot's firm stand leads to a tense showdown in the cockpit. The hum of the engines fills the cabin of Air Force One, a constant reminder of the incredible responsibility on the shoulders of those inside. The cockpit is a symphony of instruments, each light and dial meticulously placed to ensure the safety of the president. Captain James Miller, a seasoned Air Force veteran with years of experience, sits at the controls, his hands firm on the yoke. Beside him, First Officer Rachel Grant watches the radar, her focus unwavering as the aircraft cruises at 38,000 feet. "Everything's on track," Captain Miller says, his voice steady. "We'll be passing over Kentucky in about 20 minutes, sir." Their mission is clear: transport President Donald Trump to his next rally in another state. The mood in the cockpit is professional, as always, until the door opens with a soft click. President Trump steps in, flanked by his usual Secret Service agents. The air in the room changes instantly. His presence commands attention. He's dressed in a sharp dark suit, a red tie flashing against the muted interior of the cockpit. Trump adjusts his cufflinks with an almost casual precision, yet his eyes are sharp with purpose. "Good to see you, Captain," Trump greets, his voice carrying a familiar confidence. Miller turns, offering a respectful nod. "Good to see you too, Mr. President." Trump gives a slight wave of his hand. "I've been thinking," he says, his voice taking on that authoritative tone that had become all too familiar. "We're flying over Kentucky, right? I want to do something special for the folks down there. A flyover of Louisville. It'll be a huge moment for them, for my supporters. I think we should make it happen." Miller's gaze flickers briefly to the instruments before he meets Trump's eyes. The request catches him off guard. A flyover is no small task. It requires careful planning, coordination with air traffic control, and a thorough security assessment. There are a million factors to consider, especially when the president is aboard. "Sir," Miller begins, keeping his tone respectful but firm, "I understand your desire to connect with your supporters, but a change like that requires more than just a decision in the cockpit. We'd need clearance from air traffic control, approval from the FAA, and a full security check. It's not something we can just do on a whim." Trump's smile fades for a brief moment, but he steps closer to Miller, his posture shifting. "I'm the president," he says, his voice a little more intense now. "You follow my orders. I'm not asking for much, just a flyover. A simple gesture. The people will love it." The tension in the cockpit rises. Captain Miller exchanges a brief look with First Officer Grant, who remains silent but watches intently. The aircraft continues its steady course, but the feeling of control in the room begins to slip. Miller, his grip tight on the yoke, shifts his posture slightly. He has flown Air Force One through stormy skies and complicated situations, but this is different. This is a test not just of his skills, but of his loyalty and professionalism. Trump's request isn't something he can just overlook, no matter how pressing it seems to the president. "Mr. President," Miller says carefully, "I respect your role and your leadership, but I have to prioritize the safety of the aircraft and everyone on board. We can't simply deviate from the flight plan without the necessary clearance and coordination. There are rules for a reason." Trump's expression hardens for a moment. He steps closer to Miller, and his voice rises slightly. "Don't give me that. I know planes. I've flown in plenty of them. You're telling me no?" His tone is sharp now, bordering on frustration. Miller remains calm, his focus unbroken. He knows the consequences of deviating from procedure, especially with Air Force One. His responsibility isn't just to follow orders, it's to ensure the president's safety, which means adhering to the strictest protocols. "Sir, I'm not saying no to you," Miller says, his voice unwavering. "But what you're asking could create serious risks. We need to go through the proper channels, and even then, I can't guarantee that we'd get the clearance in time. This isn't something that can be rushed." The silence in the cockpit thickens. First Officer Grant's hands hover over the controls, ready to assist if the situation escalates further. The hum of the engines, the only sound in the room, suddenly feels louder. Trump's gaze never wavers from Miller's, his frustration palpable. For a moment, it feels like the situation might escalate. The tension is so thick that it's almost tangible. Outside the cockpit, the Secret Service agents shift nervously, sensing the charged atmosphere. But then, Trump's posture changes. His stance softens, and his expression shifts from frustration to a quiet understanding. His hand drops to his side, and he takes a small step back. "You're a tough one, Captain," Trump says, his voice softer now, a hint of respect in his tone. "I like that. You're doing your job keeping us safe. I can respect that." Miller breathes a quiet sigh of relief. His shoulders, which had been tense with the weight of the conversation, relax slightly. "Thank you, Mr. President," he responds, his voice steady. "It's my responsibility to keep you and everyone on board safe." Trump nods, adjusting his tie before turning to leave. "Keep us on course, then," he says with a lighter tone. "But next time, maybe we'll plan ahead for the flyover." As Trump steps out of the cockpit, followed by his Secret Service detail, the door closes softly behind him. The tension dissipates almost instantly, and Miller and Grant exchange a brief look. The silent understanding between them is clear. Today, they've stood firm, and they've earned the president's respect. Miller returns his focus to the instruments in front of him. The flight continues as planned, but there's a small sense of pride in his chest. He had done his duty, and in doing so, had earned the respect of the man who held the most powerful office in the world.